and I know the men are gonna be like, you telling all our secrets, but
Tell them, Pastor. Tell
I just think that there are not too many men.
And welcome to another episode of the Truth Reveal podcast, where we host conversations that relate, reveal truth, and ultimately lead to reconciliation. We are joined today by my lovely co host, Holly Harris,
What's up, y'all?
Shanita Street,
Hey, good people.
and Mr. Pastor Maurice Harris.
Hi, how you doing?
So today we have a guest, as you can see, and we are venturing into some maybe uncharted territory for us and just having a very brave and candid conversation about dating and singlehood and marriage for believers, for those that aren't believers, and just trying to pick the brain of our brother here today. So before we get started, I just want to give you guys some information and a bio for Mr. Maurice Harris. Pastor Maurice Harris surrendered his life to the Lord at the tender age of 12 years old and began serving in ministry and has been serving in ministry for 20 years. He has served his country with honor, spending a total of 10 years in both the United States Army and the Navy. Thank you for your service. Followed by 2 years in law enforcement. The Lord bless you. Harris has also faithfully served in various capacities of ministry, to include youth leader, praise and worship leader. He holds a bachelor's in theological and biblical studies from Liberty University, and he is currently pursuing his master's of divinity at Campbell University. Congratulations on that, sir. Although he was married for 13 years, Sir Harris is now single and finds joy in spending time with his two beautiful children, Mariah and Micah, as well as enjoying his hobby of car restoration. We got to talk about that. And more recently, Mr. Harris has branched out and is now the pastor of the Healing Place Christian Church, which is a new ministry. Thank you so much, Pastor Harris, for just being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. So I just wanted to start and give us a couple of statistics that I found just kind of preparing for this podcast. So when doing this little research, Pew Research stated that 36% of Black men are married, 45 to 51% of adult Black men have never been married, and then 15% are divorced, separated, or widowed. And unfortunately, Holly, DC had the lowest percentage of married men. DMV. So, like just hearing these statistics in relation to some of our other counterparts, Black men were at the bottom of the totem pole as it pertains to singlehood. And then, even though they were at the lower part of the totem pole, Black men had about a 3% increase in marriage rate than Black women. So really, I specifically was looking at Black men, but the women are kind of lower on the bottom of the pole as well. So just hearing that, a little bit of it is kind of daunting to hear that. And, we're all single here within this podcast. And so we did kind of just want to explore this conversation because I feel like it's definitely a conversation that obviously needs exploration to try to understand where and what is that disconnect and divide. So I want to ask the first question, and this is more so pertaining to dating and relationships. Do you feel like the availability of just casual relationships have reduced the motivation to commit?
Yeah, you want me to go?
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's the primarily the problem, is that there is so much access to casual relationships, that sometimes you might ask the question, well, why would I get into something committed that takes work, that takes energy, that takes effort, right? That takes me giving up myself, uh, versus having these casual relationships that are, I think, very popular these days.
Mhm. Would you guys agree with that as well? Holly and Shanita, you want to chime in on that?
I definitely feel that that is the issue. I believe that I don't know where the breakdown, of course, over time, society, the moral compass, if you will, has, gone down. And so there is this. And I think too, fear has a lot to do with it as well. That has led to casual relationships because nobody wants to be hurt, and so as a result, it's this whole casual relationship versus commitment that is that we see that kind of leaves us at this deficit. And I think too there's a lot of other issues that go in to play when it comes to black men and black women, and while there is this breakdown with us and with our families, but I think definitely that whole moral piece has something to do with it, which I feel like has been driven by fear ultimately, not just
Mhm.
lust but fear.
Fear. Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree with that. I just think the whole dynamics within culture have shifted over the
Mhm.
years. We see it's really anything goes for a lot of people these days. There are not a lot of standards. The morals are not in place. I mean, some people have morals, of course. If you're in the body of Christ, you should have some. But even still, talking about the body, if you laughing, Holly, talking about the body of Christ is still um,
Yeah.
it's different out in these streets
It's
Oh my
these
different.
God.
days. Is what I'm finding.
Hmm.
And we'll talk about that later. But yeah,
Mhm.
there's a different expectation, and
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
yeah,
It's funny too. I'm definitely in agreement with everything that you guys have said as well, because I think too, I don't want to jump ahead, but I think this kind of lines in with that casualness when you think about social media and what that dating kind of looks like, especially I feel like that kind of was heightened during COVID because everyone
Hmm.
was in the house online. And when there's such a plethora of options and just swipe, 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 I feel like even in that is hard to make a decision to say, hey, I like this girl. I'm gonna talk to her, or I like this guy. I'm gonna talk to him or her and just kind of see where it goes. It's like even if that's happening, there is engagement. You're constantly still being inundated with new faces and
Yeah.
new
Just
profiles.
too many
So
options when back
yeah,
then,
too many.
all you had were the people who were in your vicinity
Circle,
or
yeah.
who were at your job or where you went to church. But
Or at the
now you
gas
got
station.
everybody in the world. And so it's
I
like, it's
know.
just too much.
It is. It is.
Mm.
Um, so I think the other thing that I wanted to ask, like, Pastor Maurice, do you feel like men compare being in a committed relationship as being tied down? Or why do men kind of compare that? And I do want to say, I know you don't speak for the general population
Mhm.
of all men, but just from that male perspective, why do you feel like, if you've experienced this between your friends, your homeboys, why do you feel like they feel like being in that committed relationship is like they're being tied down?
I really think it goes back to what you just said about or someone said about the plethora of options, right?
Mhm.
So I feel like as a male, I think when we start talking about numbers, I think when you look at the numbers, there's a lot more single males than there is single females. And
Yeah.
then when we break it down to race, right, there's a lot more black single females, right,
Yeah.
than available black males, right? So if we're going to be honest, I think it's a numbers game. And I think
Mhm.
that it's easier to play the numbers game, right, than it is to find one person that you look at and the totality of that person is all that you want to need when you can have those options and when there are women who are okay with being option 2 and 3,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so if you don't look at it from a Christian perspective, of right, that I'm supposed to be an honorable man, I'm supposed to be an honorable man of God, then take your pick, right?
Yeah.
It's easy in this day and age to have a roster. It's easy, right? And I ain't been saved my whole life, right? And so it's very easy to have a roster. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that there's so many females who are open to have casual relationships or casual intimacy, or I can call you tonight, Friday night, and I won't hear from you again till next week, and you're okay that I didn't talk to you all week. And so you have a lot of that.
You
And so I
know,
think why you I'm sorry, go ahead.
no,
No,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
So I think why we see it as being tied down is because when you tie down to one person, but when you have access to so many other women, right, who don't require nothing from you but a little bit of your attention, right? And so that's my thoughts.
Yeah.
I was just going to add that while we're talking about this plethora of people available, there are a plethora of women available. That's not the same case for men.
Mm.
It's like slim pickings. So I feel like, for some women who get tired of waiting or get, frustrated with the idea
Yes.
of waiting, they open themselves up. And I
Mhm.
think we probably all can say we've done it at some point, have been with somebody we shouldn't have been with, and we may have lowered our standards. And it's a thing. And I don't know, as I talk to more, whether they're older, younger, whatever, I see there's a common behavior in what women do, the choices we make with people, with men. And it may have a lot to do with the fact that there aren't many men that you have a choice to pick from. Not that that is okay, because it's never okay. It's just that I think that may have something to do with why women end up settling or subjecting themselves to things that we shouldn't.
Yeah.
And I would like to comment on that as well, because I feel like there has been a shift in, I think somebody may have mentioned it earlier, like morals, but there has been a shift, and I'm trying to distinguish exactly when it happened. But we're all around that same age where you grew up. I grew up in a tradition where you should save yourself, and the purity culture and all of these things. And it was to be honored and revered to wear a white dress, and be a virgin on your wedding night, and all these things, whether it's realistic or not. But then there was a shift, and women kind of took the posture of men, and was like, I'm gonna get mine. And so, some of it I think is not so much actually subjecting our, now some of it is subjecting, but some of it is this like sexual, I'm free, I can do it too. It's like there's now not this, there's like I think before it used to be a double standard, where if a man had notches on his belt, he was the dude. But then when the woman, it was, she was a whore, she was this or that. Now women are like, I don't care, I'm gonna get mine too. And so I think that plays into that whole commitment process, or if you in the same thought process as the person, as the male, if women and men are in that same pool, yeah, I can see why nobody's committing.
Yeah. And
That's true.
I think too, I mean, women, I feel like they were kind of driven to that place because just tired of being heard, and so they kind of became a little bit more callous about it. Well, he gonna cheat, I'm gonna cheat. I mean, I think that that's kind of the mentality that people are kind of walking around with, is that I'm gonna get mine, or this, that, or tit for tat, because they don't trust that the other person is going to be faithful. So yeah, it's a sad thing going
So
on.
let me throw this question out there. Like, since we kind of hit on social media a little bit, so I know social media has social media has brought us so many gifts. that we probably should return. But
Exactly.
so I know a couple of years ago, there's this whole thing about like these, I forgot what they call them, but these women on social media that are like 36, 24, 36, and they are like put together and they are this ideal image. Do we feel like, and you can speak to this, Pastor, first, do you feel like that image of women and what's being portrayed in that arena has also impacted like men actually finding somebody realistic? Because let's be honest, some of these women have went through some plastic surgery and did some body alterations and just a lot of things. But if that's your standard, how does that play into you as a man being in a committed relationship?
That's a good question. Um, but it's a difficult one to answer because when I look at it from like a Christian male perspective,
Mm-hmm.
um, it does not make me like look twice at them from a Christian male perspective. From
Okay.
a man who battles a spirit of lust, right? Then absolutely, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've been pretty vocal on social media lately. I've been getting a lot of slack about a lot of different things.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
but I'm okay with it, right? Because if it's the truth, or if I feel like it's the truth, I'm gonna put it out there, and it is what it is, right?
Hmm.
And so, um, I think it has something to do with it, but I don't think we should look at women and say, "Oh, you shouldn't be a 36, 24, 36," right? I think we have to look at men and say, no, you should have standards. You should be able to control your lustly desires. You should be able to, we're visible creatures, right?
Right.
Like, I'm not afraid to say, I'd be like, I have eyes. I'm a man, right?
Right.
Right. But I also have the spirit of God, which means I should control my lust
Right.
and desires that I think every man has, but fails to control. So while I think that plays a role, I don't think that we should highlight it as these voluptuous women are an issue. I don't blame women for anything because I just believe that God created men to lead, right?
Hmm.
And so if you are a man that deals with lust issues or you wandering eyes, if you have a spouse or girlfriend, I think that's on the man. I don't think that's on the woman. But I think it has skewed, it has uh, raised an eyebrow for men who can't control their lust for sure.
Hmm.
I
Oh,
would
that's good.
I would add to that too, kind of taking a slightly different angle, not just the Instagram models, but also the
Yeah.
communities that have been created, the Kevin Samuels, and
Ooh.
the likes of others who have risen, who have kind of given men who felt like they didn't have a voice as it relates to women. And so it's almost like there has become this nitpickiness, like this nitpicky
Yeah.
culture. And what do they call them? The red pill community, or the, I can't remember what they
Yeah.
deem themselves, but it's this, where they rate women. Oh, you're a
Yeah.
7, you're a 5, you're a
Yeah.
this, that, versus looking at the heart. Now I understand like what he was saying, that they are visual, but some of these men, it's like you asking for Holly Berry, but you look like, it's like you can't, you know what I'm saying? If you're not coming with what you're asking
Yeah,
for, then you can't hold women to a certain standard that you're not holding to yourself.
for sure.
So, but yeah.
Yeah. I think that's good. In the You kind of hit it on this a little bit, Pastor, about like as a man of God,
Hmm.
wink, wink, you should have a different standard. How do you feel like um do you feel like the impact of like people focusing solely on the spiritual aspects of dating has also kind of made some shifts in like relationships?
Can I expound on that a little bit?
Sure, absolutely.
So typically, like as we are taught, or most of us have been taught in the faith, women are to grow up and be these submissive wives. You're to take care of the household. I unfortunately didn't hear much taught about men until recent years, where we talk about leadership and those things. But if we're talking about, let's say, people who are our age, in the 40s, maybe late 30s, 50s, or whatever, a lot of people look at the spiritual aspect only and miss all the other things, the character traits and whatnot. So it's more so along those lines.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. So this is probably contrary to popular belief, but I believe that from the spiritual side or the church, their teachings have done probably more harm to women
Come on, yeah.
than to men.
Yeah.
I was talking to Shanita the other day, and I was telling her the church has teach y'all to wait, and specifically like this modesty thing, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm for modesty, but I was telling Shanita the other day, like, when my time comes, I don't want no woman who's all covered up, and because we're visual, right? Right. I'm fully man, right? And so there's a time and a place for modesty. There's a time and a place to be churchy. And there's a time and a place to dress to impress, right? And so I think overall the church has taught women, do this, do this, do this, do this, and you'll find a husband. But does that really align with what real men of God are looking for if we're being honest? Right. If we're being honest, I think another thing is too, is I feel like men of God are not honest. Right.
Come on, sir.
So um, we will get this woman who's modest, who's super modest, and we will marry her. But our eyes are always looking at the woman who's not as modest. Right. And so when I get married, I want my wife to be modest, but know when to turn up, when it's time to turn up with her style and her everything. You know what I mean? And so those are the conversations I think that we need to have, right? And especially in like Christendom, right? And say, hey, yes, modesty is right, but also you need to know how to catch a man's eye because we are looking, right? Men of God are looking and men are looking, right? Men are always looking. And so I don't care how saved you are, I don't care how sanctified you are, we're always looking, right? And so what are you doing that catches a brother's eye? You know what I mean? And I'm not talking about being scantily dressed, I'm not saying that, but you have to do something. Throw some makeup on, throw some lashes on, throw some something on that says, oh wow, you know what I mean? And I think we have taught church women how to be frumpy. I don't know if y'all know what that means, but just basic.
We know what frumpy means.
Yeah, just coming out looking basic, right? We're not looking for that, right? And so we have to be honest, right?
And wanted to just add to that, that whole looking for spiritual habits in dating. I think women, I could be wrong, you can correct me, Pastor, women more so hone in on that spiritual piece than men do, as far as not that we don't want to be attracted, but I don't know, I feel like men and women are looking for different things. Men, you're gonna go for what's visual first, and then, but I mean, like, I guess you can correct me if I'm wrong. Like most Christian men, are you looking for this spiritual dynamo that's spraying the paint off the walls, or are you just looking for? See, that's what I'm saying. A lot of women, I think we're looking for more. Okay, he got to be able to yada 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 or match my spiritual level. But I think for men, you guys to kind of like, as long as she come ya, then I can work with X, Y, and Z. But
yeah. So I see all the time people like, especially females, I'm praying for my future spouse. I'm doing all this. I'm doing all that. But how, like we don't care that you praying. We care about what you look like, right? First, that's it. Like if you can pray and we're men of God, that's an addition, right? But if you praying and looking frumpy, we don't care nothing about your prayers, right? And that's just honesty. Yeah.
And I'm going to disagree with you, Holly. I'll be looking for it all. Like I look too. I got eyes as well.
No, I'm saying we want to be attracted, but I don't know that men put as much emphasis on the spiritual than we do.
They don't.
Maybe, and it could be. So I think people are at different spaces in their life. Like I was married for 18 years. And so after going through, that experience, getting back out here in the dating world, like my perspective has totally shifted from what it was before I got married. So when I'm looking too, when I'm in the store. So I am, of course, wanting the spiritual leader and the person that can lead the household in those things. However, I also want somebody that's fine, that I don't mind turning up for.
Right.
So, I want all of the things.
Yeah.
So, I just think it could just be our come froms, our experiences that factor into what is appealing to us. So yeah.
I think I want to piggyback off of what Pastor had alluded to before we kind of went down this rabbit hole about the significance of the damage that the church, who I love the bride, but the damage that has been done to specifically women, and the double standard that has been perpetrated throughout ministries in which women, like you said, we are taught to be a certain thing, but there was no accountability when we talked about marriage for the men. So my question to you as a pastor, I know you're new in your role. One, what roles does the local church play or should play in marriages? And you as a pastor, how would you address that in your own assembly?
That's a really hard question, not just because I'm a new pastor, but because in order to address marriages, you got to address singleness, right? And so a smart pastor would take his time, in my opinion, developing a singles ministry. Because if you ask a seasoned senior pastor, he probably tried and it went crazy. A whole bunch of single people in the same space trying to walk life out the right way ain't smart, right? So I know I have some friends who have larger mega churches and they refuse because they're like, until God shows me someone that can head up a singles ministry and it won't become a cesspool, a free-for-all, yes, a free-for-all, then we're not doing it. And he's got thousands of members. He's like, we're not doing it. I have not been able to pinpoint. And so, so we have to skip singleness and we go straight to marriage, right? And I think that it is hard, even for a pastor who's been married for 20 years, to talk about marriage today, right?
Yeah.
Because it looks different, it shows up different. They're not dealing with the things that we're dealing with, right? And so I think it's hard for the church to address, and I think that's why the church is ignoring it on a broader scale, because they don't know how to address it, right? Because it's such a difficult topic. And you have, like, I see now a lot of churches are doing like these singles events, right? I think that's like these single meetups. I think that's the only way you can address it without putting your neck out there on the line as a church and say we have a singles ministry without it going haywire. That's just my opinion. I don't know any church that is doing single ministry well. I'm sure there are. I just don't know who they are. And I think it's just a difficult topic to deal with.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. And, as someone who was a part of a Bosch singles ministry, as a singles, I remember, and this is like probably 10, 20 plus, well, probably 10 plus years ago, where my pastor was like, I'm going to have this singles ministry, which was primarily women. Yay. And then so there was no men there to engage. And I just felt like at that stage in life for me, like I was like, this is a waste of time. Like I never go participate in singles ministries because like you said, I've not seen it done well.
I see more churches actually getting rid of their singles ministries. Here lately. Not that they're not needed, like you said, Pastor Maurice. I just don't know that every ministry knows how to do it well. Like we see the marriage ministries and the marriage conferences and how to be a wife and what you need to be, to be a husband, that kind of thing. But I have not seen
Exactly. And meanwhile, the Lord, at my church, the marriage ministry is the bomb. They going, I think, Barbados. I'm like, I want to go. I need to get married so I can be. They're constantly going on these lavish vacations, and because, like you said, it's hard to really do one, and it's kind of going into that next question as far as the men. But go ahead, sweet.
No, go ahead.
No, but the question was as far as like how would you do it? Like as far as in order to create a healthy singles ministry where there are both men and women. Is there a way that you have in your mind that it could be executed well to bring the two together?
The thing that comes to mind the most is you got to have both people there. And like you said, typical single ministries are full of women,
Yeah.
right? And so if you don't have both people there, right, and you're not, teaching, preparing both people, then it just won't work. And the difficult part about it is church is made up of predominantly women, right?
That's true
Anywhere
too.
you go, there's going to be way more women than men. If
Yeah.
you find the average man in church, I think 60% of them are going to be married, right?
That's
The
true.
other 40 are either living an alternate life, or other part
Ooh.
percentage of the 40 is living an alternate lifestyle, right? Or wilding out. So they're not really even looking for marriage. The men that are honestly the men that are coming to church that are single are not typically looking for marriage, right? And I think that's the most difficult part.
Yeah.
And because you have the ones that are not looking for marriage, and then you have the ones who live alternate lifestyles, right? If you look in the church, I was leading praise and worship like a year ago at this church, and a lady came up to me and she said, "It is so nice to see a masculine male
Ooh.
leading praise and worship."
Father help
And I was like,
us.
huh? Because I'd be in my own little bubble, right? And I'm like, huh? She was like, yeah, you go around these places, all you see is these feminine men leading praise and worship. So I just don't. My personal opinion is I don't think there is a lot of masculine males who's ready to lead, looking for spouses in the church, and so that's why you see ladies. I wouldn't say lowering their standards, but going outside the church,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
That was going to be a
Wow.
question because I've more recently, I don't know if y'all have heard this, but people using the unequally yoked to, traditionally we've used it in the church to say believer, believer. But now we hear more people talking about that needs to be expanded so that we can further explore in so many words. And so you have more people saying we need to be on the same wavelength, whatever that entails. So what is your viewpoint on dating outside of the church?
Um, as a pastor, and I'm not talking about uh like proximity. I'm talking about equally yoked, unequally yoked.
Yeah.
As a pastor, as a man of God, even when I was just an associate minister, I refused to date a woman that was heavily into church. She was usually not physically appealing, right? She was usually not well balanced, right? Super spooky spiritual,
Ooh.
but that's what they're teaching. That's what they're teaching women to be, right? So it's like, or as a man of God, period, or now as a pastor, it's like, oh, I want to be a first lady. I'm not looking for a first lady,
Ooh.
right?
Father.
I'm looking for someone because when I'm at home, I don't want to be pastor, right? I
Yeah.
want to be Maurice. There's a whole nother part of my life, right? And so the Christian woman, the woman in church, like, oh, I would love to be your first lady. That's not a way to introduce yourself,
Ooh.
right?
Lie.
Because I'm not looking for that, right? That's just, it's a calling, something that I am, it's something that a space that I exist in. And so you hear that often from single ladies in the church is, hey, what is your name? Your name is not future first lady. You have a name, you have a personality, you have, who are you, right? And so I think that um, that's what a disconnect is when it comes to like why as a pastor, I really don't want no like really super churchy girl. They're just usually Like we teach them to pray, pray, pray. In all due respect, we don't teach them to take care of their bodies, right? When you look at the numbers, you see a lot of obese females in the church, right? We're teaching them all these things, right? Take care of the spirit, take care of the soul, take care of this, take care of the house, take care of yourself first, right? Because remember, men are visual, right? And so, but what is the girl at the gym? The girl outside her, she's at the gym, right? She's taking care of herself. She might not even be Christian like that, but she posting scriptures on Instagram. So not only is she beautiful, but she's posting scriptures that she probably don't even believe in on Instagram, right? That's more appealing than the woman who can pray heaven down but can't keep food out of her mouth, right?
Ooh,
And I think
Father.
that if we would have, once again, we would have this conversation with church girls or women who are in the church, say, hey sis, I love that you love God, but what about your physical health, right? What about your emotional health, right? Also as well, you see a lot of Christian girls, right? The dating pool has pee in it.
Oof.
Well, if that's your thought process, we don't have nothing to talk about because I'm optimistic, right? I got faith. I believe that
Yeah.
God's going to send me someone. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, what you, one of the things I said the other day on my social media, I got ate up for it, is what you post is important to any man, right? And so, we're just teaching them to be spiritual and pray and post scriptures, but we're not teaching them the other things that really catch a man's attention.
But what about men who like big women? I'm saying, go ahead.
Uh,
They
Not all men like the same thing, but
same thing.
I feel what you're saying as far as
right.
presenting yourself, yeah,
But
the right
big
way.
has now become subjective,
This is
right?
yeah.
Because back in the day, a BBW was just a big woman. Now it's those bigger girls who lift weights and the curves are right and the arms, they might be bigger, but they're tight. You know what I'm saying? So it's subjective.
Yeah.
So, in that same vein, Pastor, I'm with you. Like, yes, take care of yourself. Be spiritually high and be physically and fit. Like, I get that, and I've heard that a lot. I get men are visual, all the things. Talk to me about what's being told to the brothers, because there is a lot of emphasis on what women need to do to garner the attention of men, but the reality of the case is still, I don't want to be with somebody who not even praying to paint off the wall, like just basic stuff. Can you manage your money? Do you got 25 baby mamas? Like those type of things. And I feel like the church has done a disservice to the single ministry and a disservice to the women, but they equally have done a disservice to men because there has not been teaching to men on what they should be looking for and what they should be doing to prepare. So as a man, how do you feel like the local church and maybe even the big C church should be approaching men? Like, yes, women need to be aesthetically appealing, obviously, because everything starts with the attraction. If I'm not attracted to you, I don't know how deep and wonderful you are. If there's nothing about you that makes me turn my head. But after we've gotten past the attraction piece, what can be done to help these brothers? Because as a single woman who is dating, these babies are slow. And I say that not even as a joke, like as a mental health professional, as a counselor, soon to be licensed. When you talk to people and they have no emotional maturity, what am I supposed to do with that?
Right. My first question is still, though, it goes back to, we want to minister to them, but where are they at? Especially in the church. Where are they at? Right?
No, are you asking, are they in the church?
I'm telling you they're not.
Yeah.
Right. So they're not there to minister to, right? Because the number is so different, right? The numbers are so different of available women in the church and available men in the church. Where are they at for us to minister to them? Right. And I think behind the scenes, there on a very small scale, there's conversations being had, right? I got friends, I got people who look up to me who are like, "Yo, Maurice, I'm like, bro, look at your life, right? Bro, you live in a one bedroom apartment, your finances is all not together. Like, are you even available for a woman?" Somewhere along the way, we have been misled as men too, because the word helpmate, we have switched it to she can come in life and do for me. No, she's a
Mm.
helpmate, right? She's supposed to help you. That means you're supposed to already have something going on in your life that she can help you with, right? Men just are late blossoms. They're just late blossoms. And I think that because they're not present in the church, it's hard to reach them, right? The first thing when women deal with trauma, they run to the church. When we deal with trauma, we run away from the church, right? And so we're left to fend for ourselves into a world that's very inviting, you know, multiple women, drinking, drugs, right? Where you guys run to the church. I need to find the Lord. I need to find. We don't do that when trauma comes. When I got my divorce, I was in the church. I was leading praise and worship. I was physically there, but I was not emotionally there. I was not psychologically there, right? I started, I knew I had to be there because I had a title as a praise and worship leader, right? But those were just songs, because Friday, Saturday night, I was hurting. I didn't run to the church, I ran away from the church. And I was trying to get my needs met elsewhere. And so I think that's why we have this large difference. And so you say, how do we minister to them? They're not there to minister to. And the man, from my experience, when I think about my 20 years of being in church and being in church leadership, the men that are there are not, they're married, or they're not the men that I would suggest my sister to, right? They're just not quality men. They're broken, they're bruised. They don't know who they like one day. They don't want males or females. They're just all over the place. And so I think the bigger question is, you say, how do we minister to the men? Where are they at to minister to?
That's
So
it.
to that point, to that question, for example, you said you have a pastor friend who has a mega church ministry, and I get I understand totally, and really support his ideology about not wanting to have a singles ministry without having great oversight, and like you said, so it doesn't implode on itself. So for the pastor who has the men in the church, what does discipleship look like for
Yeah,
the
I was
men?
gonna say evangelism, discipleship
So,
Like,
components.
how
Yeah.
do you walk alongside? Because I understand what you're saying, Pastor. When the man isn't there, the man's just not there.
mm,
But then when you have the situations like you, how you were saying, yeah, there were men there, and they were all over the place, broken, bruised, worn, and torn.
mm,
What was being done to help cultivate them into wholeness? Because even you're saying, as a person who was engrafted in ministry, you still went and did a whole different thing when you were hurting.
mm. That's a good question. How do we deal with it? I think one thing that kind of brought me back to was other men who were strong in their faith, but they were all married, right? They were all married. I don't know not one single man that was able to minister to me out of my season, right? It was all married men, right? And um, I almost feel like every Sunday they were singling me out, right? In a sense of like, it's gonna be okay, you're gonna be fine. I'm praying for you, reaching out. In a larger church, I'm not really sure. I went to a mid-sized church where my pastor knew me very well, so he could talk me off a lot of ledges, right? And so that's a really good question that I just don't have an answer to, because it's like when men are going through, it's hard to get us to church, and when we're in church, it's hard to grab us, It's just really hard. And I know sometimes it seems like we blame sisters for everything all the time, or we point to them. But the reality of it is that I don't want to play the blame game, but I think uh, we got to figure out how to capture more men. And we got to figure out how to capture more godly men. And we got to figure out how to disciple them, right? But as men, we're easily distracted. We're easily distracted. And so I was telling Miss Shanita, I just have a bunch of guidelines and rules of how I live my life. 9 o'clock, don't call after 9 o'clock, don't call me. If it ain't about church, don't talk to me. Don't because if I'm fully a man, right? And so I gotta set these boundaries. But those boundaries were taught to me. My pastor shepherded me and said, hey, you are a single man. This is what you must do if you want to keep your name clean. Right? You have to do this if you want to keep your name clean. And so, but that takes a lot of self-control.
Yeah.
And it's hard to have self-control when, like you said earlier, there's so many options. There's so many people willing to go against their morals and values for you.
So with the same shepherding that took place with you, would that not be applicable to the other brothers that were at the church? Would that not be the start of what discipleship looks like, shepherding?
Yeah. Um, but inside of us, there has to be something, I feel like, already there.
Got you.
What I mean by that is like me getting married early. I knew from the time I was a little boy that I wanted to be married and I want to have a family. It wasn't a question,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I had models of that. So for me, my divorce was devastating because what I seen model was 57 years of marriage, right? Ups and downs, but they stayed. So now I'm in this marriage, and at year 9, it's falling apart. Right? What in the world do I do? Right? And it hurt. It hurt a lot. And so that led me to a really dark place. Right? And a lot of men get to that dark place and they can't get out.
Mm-hmm.
One, because we're supposed to be strong. We're not supposed to show anybody that this hurt us. And we're much more quieter. We're less emotional about what we've been through and what we faced. And so it is really difficult. I think of a person now that I know of, and they want to be married. They're a male. They want to be married. I'm looking at them like, you are not marriage material. But they think they are, right? And so they know how to present like, I'm marriage material. I'm like, I hope no girl accepts this invitation because he's going to absolutely destroy it, right? And it's sad to say, but even when you tell them like, you need to heal, you need to grow, you should probably be doing this and this, focus on this in this season. They're like, no, I want to be married. And I'm like, I hope not. I'm praying against that for you because you would destroy any woman. They present well,
Yeah.
right? They present very well, and they would be, I think they would fool somebody. But when the lights come on, that woman will see he is not ready to be a husband. Right? And so it takes time.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
So I forgot my other question, but I have another one. No, you're good. You're good. So while we're out here capturing men and discipling men, how do we encourage women? Because when we do go in church settings with people who have like minds, there are not many men. There aren't many choices. Everybody's married. I think as I just was reflecting over various friendships and relationships, most of my friends are now single. If not, they've never been married. There are a lot of divorces that have taken place. So that's a whole nother population of women who are joining this whole singleness. So what is the encouragement for the woman? Because the truth is, not everybody, while I believe that I will get married again, that is my prayer, that is my desire, I do know there are some women who will leave this earth without ever being married. So what is the hope and the encouragement for women who want to be married?
Um,
Question.
stand fast to your morals, your values, and your standards. Stand fast. Um, One of the posts I made the other day was about women with no morals, no values, and what you're going to attract. I would just rather be single than to deal with a whole bunch of foolishness, right? I would rather stand to my morals and my values and make it to heaven versus to pursue people who I know are not good for me just to say I have somebody,
Yeah.
than to hell for hell to be my resting place, right? And so you're right. I've had those moments where I'm like, Lord, is it my time? Like, why am I meeting all these women I wouldn't give the, time of day to? Is it me? Am I doing something wrong? Do I need to change the way I talk? Do I need to, whatnot? And I started asking God like all these different questions. What's wrong with me? And I feel like a lot of us single people, we ask that question. What's wrong with me? Right? There's nothing wrong with you. Hold to your morals, hold to your values, hold to your standards. And if when it's your time, it'll be your time. And I know that sounds cliche, but I have a very peaceful life. And I desire to keep my peace, right? And
Right.
so if I lower my standards, I'm going to invite somebody in that's going to disturb my peace, and that ain't happening,
Yeah.
right? And so hold to that. I know it sounds bad, but hold to your morals, to your values, and your standards. And when it's your time, the Bible says, "I, the Lord, will make it happen," right? And pray on it. Be the woman of God. Be prepared for it, because what you see is women who sometimes cross a nice guy and she's not prepared, right? Her attitude ain't in check. She still got a lot of drama with her, you know, and it's like, dang, you're in church and you're on the God, but you're not kind, right? You don't know how to take care of your house, right? And men of God are looking at all those details. I can only speak for men of God, can't speak for men, like lustful men, but all those details. And so have your life together while you wait.
And just to piggyback off what Shanita was saying as far as the encouragement piece, I mean, it's very discouraging, especially when you're trying to do things the right way. Like we come across, I mean, Shanita and Sweet can attest to so many men in our dating experience. You're trying to do things the right way. You meet somebody who got a good head on their shoulders. They, seem like they love the Lord, but when it comes down to the sex piece,
Mhm.
it's a wrap.
Mhm.
Like, it's like getting to that place to keep hope alive that you will find a man who
Mhm.
profess Christ, who also knows how to control his body. Man,
Mhm.
it is like finding
Yes.
Nemo. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh. And it
Yeah.
makes women, it gets them to a place that where women do begin to lower the standards, the moral compass, if you will, because they feel like it's a unicorn to literally
Mhm.
find a man who says they are Christian, and you find them there in the church. They're doing all of the things in church and seemingly having a relationship with the Lord, but that one area they don't trust God with. The
Mhm.
And they will
willingness
tell
to
you.
wait.
Yeah.
And they will tell you straight up, I can't do
Yeah.
that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh
Yeah.
Jesus. I got
The
some
spirit of
stories,
lust is
but
something. The spirit of lust is something, right? But on the flip side of that, um, I've had women say I was gay because I didn't want to be intimate. Oh, you must be gay,
wow.
right? You have to be gay because what? How dare you not want to touch me, right? And so, yeah, because they are so used to men having that lustful
Yeah.
spirit, right?
Mm.
And so I definitely understand that. And yes, I have friends who are like, I'm not waiting. I will serve
Yep.
God in all the other areas, but
Yep.
I'm not
That's the
serving God
one.
in that area.
Yeah.
And
These friends are Christians, Pastor?
yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
they love the Lord?
It's the one thing that
It's
I
the
feel like
one
you're right.
thing.
You're right,
Yeah.
Miss Harris. Like, there's one thing that men are like, I'm not doing.
Yep.
It is difficult. As a man, it is difficult when you're used to having it, when you've been married and you can have it at your request, and then you got to go be celibate. Whew, right? That's hard,
It's hard
right?
for us too, but go ahead.
It's hard for
But
all of us.
sure, for sure. But you just have to make up in your mind that,
Right.
I feel like when it comes to the men piece, we know that what you won't do, someone else will. And what you won't do, someone else will, and keep our secrets.
That
Right?
whole part, Pastor.
Yeah.
Secrets.
You'll keep our secrets. You won't snitch on us, right? We are knight in shining armor, right? And women to me have this like, I got it, I got, like I got him, right? And they will hold your secrets for you. And so it's very difficult. And I do feel for ladies. I have a bunch of sisters. And only one out of all my sisters are married. And I hope one day they will find spouses.
Why are you laughing?
Yeah, does he know?
Why are you laughing?
Because I understand men.
And the older you get, the worse it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I understand men. And now you see older women dating younger men.
Yeah.
Right.
I've been approached by more younger men.
Honey,
like in their 30s.
Yeah.
I don't want to be nobody cougar.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, I'm not quite cougar age, but I am open. However, yeah, that's another podcast.
Well, yeah, that is another podcast, because I think when I think cougar, I think
Much
the
older
woman that is supporting the
yeah.
If brother got it going on and he's fully financially stable and listen, I'm gonna need somebody to take care of me when I get a little older. So I might need to go backwards because I'm not trying to be a hospice wife either. You know what that is?
Right, exactly. So it's as you get older, you just start looking at things differently. The men that have approached me are like mid to late 30s, as well as some that were older. But yeah, another podcast.
Well, that's because like back in the day when you were like 50, we thought it was old.
Right.
But now these 50-year-old ladies be looking good. So it ain't like, 50 back in the day, you were like somebody's grandma. Like 50 today, like these 50-year-old women today
30
look good. Yeah, it's a new 30 for sure. So
I'm gonna inject this real quick. I met this guy that someone introduced. I think I told you guys about him. I think I told Holly. But I'm putting it out there, but I won't say any names. But I met this guy like 2 years ago, and I was like, oh, he's cute. But he looked so much older that I thought we were in the same age bracket. And then like when I got to know him, my little cousins was like, oh yeah, we graduated together. Now my little cousin's like 30, and I was like, oh. Yeah, so I was like, at the time that I met him, I think I was like 12 or 13 years older. And so I was, and like he was pressed. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet. Yay. And I was like, but there's such a big age gap here. And he had no problems with the age. Like he could have cared less. And I was listening to some wiser counsel from some older women, and they was like, no, he's a really upstanding guy. He's got his head on straight for his age. Give him a chance. Baby. But what I realized was this is what I'm talking about when you talk about emotional maturity. You texting me. I'm driving. So let's have a phone conversation because that's safer. You say you're busy, you can't have the phone converation, but you're texting me.
They scared of phone conversations.
What are you doing?
Girl.
You're playing the video game that you don't want to stop to have the phone. I can't deal with that.
It's almost like, I don't know, when it comes to communication too, there's like a breakdown where they can't, well, I ain't saying all of them can't really hold a conversation. So I think they resort to texting because they can't really, Lord, it's hard out here, Pastor.
Sometimes it's another woman. That's why they got to text. So they got to text.
That's true too. Or they married.
Yeah,
Exactly.
So, Pastor Maurice, you said something to me, and I was just blown away because we have been trying to get a single Christian male on the podcast. I think we did the announcement back in May, April, May. Yeah. And I've gotten inboxes and texts, and we couldn't figure out why we not getting responses from these men. We can get women all day. That's that's easy. But you were saying something to me as far as the reason. Do you remember what you said to me as far as the reason why they didn't?
Yeah, I said because there's somebody that thinks they're in a relationship with them, right? And they're not like single for real. I just think it's, and I know the men are gonna be like, you telling all our secrets, but I just think that there are not too many men who are truly single. Like truly single. Like they're texting somebody, calling somebody, humping on somebody, something, right? And if I get on this podcast and it makes it far enough and I say all the wrong things and she's gonna be at my neck, right? What you mean? You know what I mean? And so I think that's why, right? Because like we was talking about earlier is that because there's such a big difference in numbers that it's just, unless he lives under a rock, it's just highly, highly not likely that a man is not entertaining, speaking to, talking to, engaging with someone who thinks that they may be involved with them.
And Pastor Maurice, I'm about to be spooky spiritual. You might be in the spirit, because I literally was telling Holly and Shanita about a situation that happened like literally this week, and used the same verbiage where I was talking to someone via text, and I just had the notion to ask, like, are you in a relationship or are you dating someone? And then, the other question was, is there anyone that thinks that they're dating you? And when I asked that question, it was like, I have a friend. And I was like, oh, okay. So you probably shouldn't be trying to see me if you have a friend. And it's what you're saying, like, which is still daunting to think that nobody is just talking to one person, which I don't think there's anything wrong. Like if you are actively dating and you're vocal and saying, I'm engaging with different people, like I'm going out, that's totally different. Like I think that's fine. But if you say you have a friend, that to me has some level of exclusiveness. And is what you said, you have a friend, but you are still texting and talking or trying to talk to me and never mention that you had this friend, and probably would not have mentioned had I not asked the right question. So
it's got a backup plan.
Yeah.
Always
this
got a
is very
backup
interesting.
Stand by somebody. Yeah.
I do have one more question too. And I think I don't know if I don't think we actually addressed it, but do you believe that the church has idolized marriage? And that married people and single people are being pitted against each other?
Yeah, the second part, yeah. I wouldn't say the church idolizes it anymore.
Okay.
But I think married people and single people are getting pitted. I think because you said there's all these marriage things that are great, right? And then the single people are like, hey, what about us, right? And so it's kind of like, oh, you're not married, right? And so what I hear is, you a pastor, you're not married? And I'm like, you were ordained, you're not married, right? And so it's kind of like, oh, am I not qualified because I'm not married? Can God not use me because I'm not married, right? And so I think it made me look at married people like, what do you have that like, does marriage come with like a certain level of anointing that I don't have because I'm not married, right? And so you have some people that have a huge problem with single pastors. You have and I get it. I understand it, right? But it's like, because you're married, you're like super special, or you carry some great anointing, and I just don't believe that. And of course they use scripture to try to justify that. When it talks about, the elders will be, husbands of one wife and stuff like that. Well, it means you got to be married, right? Well, that's not really what the text is saying.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's interesting. Oh, go ahead, Holly.
Oh,
Um,
I lost my train of thought when you
I'm
said that. Go
sorry.
ahead.
Bring
Go
it
ahead.
back
Do
to where
your
Jesus.
Oh, I
Uh,
was going to say, even the languaging in churches, a lot of times, like some pastors, not all, will, like when they're addressing relationships, oh, well, that's why you single. So it's like, it's this connotation that being single is bad.
yeah.
Or that if you're married, you were ready for something that the single person is not yet ready
Right.
for, or like you said, some special anointing. So even the verbiage within the church can put that negative connotation, which then makes married people think, oh, I'm better than someone who's single because of the verbiage sometimes. But
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And it's interesting, what you just said, Pastor Maurice, about like people, I guess having issue with you being single. And, I'll just be transparent. There are like some notable Christian, I wouldn't call them influencers, but they're Christian pastors and preachers that are just well known if you're, in the Christendom world. And I have asked myself, why are they single? Not not that I can't receive from them because they're single,
Mhm.
but like, you mean to tell me like you were in the third heaven and no one has manifested themselves to you to marry? So I don't think it's necessarily a bad
no,
thing.
didn't.
But it is something that I often question. And then, like did you ever watch the Preachers of LA?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
So if you watch the show, then there are a couple of people
Oh,
on
what you
there,
call them? Oh,
and
Lord.
this individual had been married at one point in time, and then was in this very weird and strange
Long relationship.
situation
I know
with
you're talking about.
this
He
young
finally
lady,
married her
or
though, but go ahead.
huh?
I said he finally married her though, but go
20
ahead.
years later.
Like that's a long time.
Oh,
She
she's
held
a
on. She
Scorpio
must have
now.
loved that joker for
And
real.
it was, I always thought that was interesting because I was like, when I was watching the show, because I did watch it, I was oftentimes trying to process, is he not wanting to marry her because he doesn't want what we talked about earlier, that tied down? But they literally had a business together. Like, for all intents and purposes, from what the show showed, I know when you're watching a reality show, a narrative is created. It looked like a synergy and a couple. I mean, they were a couple without the legal benefits due to, marriage. And I just thought that was
I
interesting.
think he had been married before too, if I'm not
He had.
mistaken, and I think that was part of his apprehension. But go ahead,
Gotcha.
yeah,
I mean, but let's be honest. He was getting his cake and eat it
yeah,
too,
yeah, this is
right?
true.
So
She did have
why,
to.
once again, why tie down when you can have everything else without
Yeah.
any legal ramification? But as a church leader, you should be concerned about the spiritual ramification of it as well. But I think you got that large church, you got all that money, right? You got all this fame and notoriety and books and bookings and everything. Why would you get married, right? You have everything, right? You look at some of the other younger preachers, right, that are wealthy and well known. Why would they get married? They getting caught in these scandals,
My
and
Lord,
we forgive them 2 weeks later, right? And what is the ramifications
that's
of
true.
living an unholy life as a minister? There is none.
You
Hmm.
right.
Let's be honest,
That's
right?
Yeah.
true.
Men get away with murder,
Mm-hmm.
right? Men of cloth get away with murder.
Yeah.
The only real thing they don't get away with is when they touch a kid, right?
Yeah.
But they can run through their whole church.
Whole church.
It can be well known, and people love them.
Even
People
with the
love them.
kids, sometimes they get away with it
For
forever, and
sure.
then finally,
Yeah. But I
But
think we're just getting into an age now
yeah,
where
that's
people ain't getting
true.
away with it with the kids no more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there are some people that we know that was messing with kids and they were pastoring for years and years
Yeah.
afterwards,
Telling you.
paying out all this money to keep quiet, and everybody knew it. They didn't care. right?
Mhm.
And so once again, you say, well, where are the men? This is the men that we're raising up, right? This is the men that's being raised up. This is the men that we're keeping in pulpits all across America, right? We're letting people who clearly live alternative lifestyles run pulpits, and you're seeing all this crazy stuff now, and it's typically the men, right?
Wow.
But when you see a woman say something in the pulpit, she says something in the pulpit, the whole world goes crazy, right? But when a man do something in the pulpit, he gets overlooked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely a double standard
Mm-hmm.
that obviously exists within the body. I do think that, as we're all part of local ministries, and all of us are leaders and servant leaders. And so I think this conversation is not to bash churches, but it is to bring awareness to things that are taking place in churches and say, how do we, as the seasoned saints, as we are, who've been serving in ministry, how do we address these things and make them better? And, add some value to what has been tainted.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So does anyone else have any other questions? I think we kind of went through a lot of our topics and, questions that we had just naturally through our conversation, kind of hit on a lot of things.
Yeah. I don't have anything else.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
Well, Pastor, give the single people hope in your closing remarks. So we do closing remarks.
Awesome.
And we go around and we want you to have the honor of giving the first closing remarks to someone who be watching this.
And tell us how people can follow,
absolutely,
engage in all of your great conversation on social media. Tell us what
if you
church
don't like the truth, then you probably don't want to follow my social
media.
And tell us what the socials for the church and all that,
All right. So my inspiration is that one thing I have found is holding on to faith in spite of how I feel. Knowing that God's plan is perfect, right? And he has not forgotten about you in whatever season that you're in, right? Specifically for the singles, right? Hold on to your faith, hold on to your standards, hold on to what you believe. And just so the word of God says, in my time, I, the Lord, will make it happen. And that's what I'm holding on to, right? And then you could follow me on Facebook. It's Maurice Harris. YouTube, it's Moments with Maurice. Instagram, it's Maurice_Harris81. And that's it. That's all the socials I have. Yeah. And then for the church, we have YouTube church page called the Healing Place Christian Church. We have Instagram, the Healing Place Christian Church, and also Facebook, the Healing Place Christian Church, located in Fayetteville, North Carolina.
All right. Yeah. And this information will also be listed in the show notes. Holly, any last words of inspiration?
I would say, along the lines of what he said, as far as continuing to hold on to your faith. And I think too, taking responsibility for your love life. Like I think, especially we as women, a lot of times we're just waiting on God to do it. And that's, very, very important. But I think also giving God something to work with. I believe that faith without works is also dead when it comes to love, and not just, waiting for something to fall into your lap, because I fell into that trap for many years. So, but I'm understanding now how important it is, like we're saying earlier, to put yourself out there, to not be afraid, to explore new things, to try new things, to, just put yourself out there. You just never know what can happen. So I'm just encouraging myself in this, because it's been a long journey, but we're going to make it to the other side. Amen.
Shanita, last thoughts and inspiration.
It's along those same lines as Holly. Just remain active, take some new classes, learn something that you've always wanted to do, invest in yourself, go hang out with your girls, go to a jazz spot, have some good food, travel the world, whatever it is that you want to do, just make the investment in yourself. And the only other thing is hold on to God's unchanging hand.
Oh my God.
That's all I got.
All right. Well, I ditto everything that's been said. I would say live life to the full. Don't wait for the relationship to visit
Amen to
Hawaii
that.
for your honeymoon. That hadn't happened. Just live your life to the full and, be active and, what everyone else has said, trust God in the process and stay vigilant. So this has been another episode of the Truth Revealed podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Follow us on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at Truth Revealed Podcast. Anywhere you stream, you can find us there. Spotify, Apple, all of those avenues. And we will see you guys next month. Thank you so much.
All right.
Peace.
Peace.
Bye.